Speakers Magazine live issue, preview, walkthrough, interview, whatever you want to call it. We are in the building and super excited. I'm joined as always with Dr. Pam Perry. Detroit, Michigan is here. Hey, Pam.
Hey there, how are you? Native Detroiter. That's me. That's me.
Is that what the shirt
Yes,
says?
yes, native Detroiter.
And it's bedazzled. Very appropriate. I like that.
Always glam, always glitter.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
And then obviously Sierra is not able to join us, but she is. We'll get into the cover issue in a little bit to showcase her work. But we have our featured cover story. Obviously, February is Black History Month, and I was just telling the team that this is perhaps the blackest issue of Speakers Magazine you could find, and that
Yes,
we have none other than attorney, activist, author, scholar, and entrepreneur, Miss Nkechi. You are
Taif,
with Ta- I'm
Taifa.
sorry,
Taifa.
Taifa. Yes, Taifa. Yes.
Yes.
So excited to have you. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fabulous and I'm thrilled to join you all at Speakers Magazine. Thank you for having me and I'm thrilled.
You got it.
Right,
You are
right.
official.
Just not just the cover, but a real live. The pages are coming to life today. They are coming to life today. So Sierra's the one that wrote the center spread cover story. She's not here today, but we'll actually dig into it.
Yes. So, yes, Black Speakers Network is here. If you're not familiar, we do this once a month, and Speakers Magazine is the official magazine of Black Speakers Network. Pam has been rocking and rolling with us for almost 5 years
5 years.
now. Like
Yeah,
it's
5 years.
five years on the nose. Yeah. So this
And
is
and and the story was that I think you were at a donut place in the parking lot somewhere, and I
no.
called you. Was
Yes, it was Dunkin' Donuts. Yep,
it Dunkin'
it was Dunkin'.
Donuts? So it was like I need to reach out to him because we have the same heartbeat for the same type of people that we want to help and promote and collaborate. And so we basically had a like an hour long conversation. You told me your story, I told you my story, and then the magic happened, and we basically have been rolling ever since. You were did one of the takeover issues was so big. It was like it was like a book. I was like, that should have been a book. But we've done that, and then you actually did this book. I love this book. I'm always showing this one. You did the collab on this book as well. Speak Up, How to the Ultimate Guide to Dominate in Speaking Industry. And that was something, and the forward was George Frazier, and the afterword was Les Brown. I mean, we've just been rolling for 5 years. This is a good connection. And of course, Uncle George, power networking guy, George Frazier.
Yep.
We kind of we met. I think that was the first time we actually met was at the at Power Networking Conference.
Yeah, yeah. This is like Nikichi. We have a like you know how like couples have like their like story that they rehearse over and over again of like how they met. Like I feel like, but like new details emerge like each time. You know, it gets slightly more interesting, and so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. But the main thing is we all have a heart for black speakers, in particular, uh, the ones that are motivating, ones that are world changers, the ones that are legendary, like you, like Nikichi's been out here for 40 plus years. I know she only
Plus,
looks 40, but she's been out here doing the thing for a long time, since the campus of Howard, you know.
before
H.
then, but yeah,
Before that, right,
yeah,
right. Oh my God.
that's
Oh,
a teenager.
yes, yes.
Now, Nikichi, you are actually you just wrapped up a speaking engagement. Are you able to tell us a little bit about that? Because we are talking about Black Speakers Network. We're in Black History Month. I'm sure this has been a very busy period for you as always. But can you tell us a little bit about where you are and what you're doing this morning?
Yeah. So it was an organization called Appeal, and it's a literacy, economic literacy organization that's seeking to form a Black credit union in this country, and they
Wow.
have educational um, events each month. And for Black History Month, they featured me. Dealing with my new book, Reparations on Fire: How and Why It's Spreading Across America, but also just me, period. And I'm a family member of the organization, so I'm familiar with them. It was founded in Washington, D.C. So I'm homegrown D.C. There were many people on the line who I knew, many people whose children I taught when I used to be a teacher before I was before I was a lawyer, and so it was a nice scenario. I'll be going to Selma, Alabama, in 2 weeks for the Bridge Crossing Jubilee. I'll be speaking on a panel dealing with the issue of reparations. The bridge crossing was where John Lewis, as a youth, was brutally and savagely beaten up on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So there's a event each year commemorating the bridge crossing, and so I'll be in Selma speaking on that. I'll also be in San Antonio, Texas, next week for another convening. So anyway, I'm kind of like all over the place. Black History Month.
Yeah,
Wow.
not
Wow.
rightfully so. I can't wait to like dive into your story a little bit more because as Pam mentioned, you have several decades of you know not only fighting a good fight, but also just being such a powerful advocate
Hmm.
um, for Black people. And I think there's a lot to you should be on stages like this is one of the reasons why we created Black Speakers Network, be able to amplify the voices of those who won't allow like history to be erased, like we were talking about before. So that's incredible. And are you finding speaking opportunities? Like, are you at the point in your career where uh, everything's just like organic now? Obviously, you have an incredible body of work. I know you've testified in front of Congress. Like, you've done so much.
Two thick
But like,
books.
yeah, and those books are thick too. Like I was like, because sometimes we write a book and be like, it'll be looking like Speakers Magazine, like but you have so much content out there. Is that primarily how people are you finding you, or are you still doing like some proactive outreach on your end as well?
Good question.
Well, I am out there. I have a talk show as well that's on radio, it's podcast, it's on YouTube, TV, and the like. We're in our second season, so I have all of those episodes. But I have basically multi decades of being out there, paying my dues. I mean, I'm just saying
Mhm.
things did not just drop from the sky.
Right.
It was hard work and the like. I have loads of speaking engagements all over the place. What I'm at the point now, though, I'm trying to break into the 5 and 6 figure speaking engagements. That's what I'm really looking for. Pam is helping to position me, Dr. Pam, with respect to that. She opened up a whole new arena with me by recommending that I apply for a TEDx talk, which I did, and lo and behold, I was accepted. So that opened up a whole new platform and
Mhm.
new arena of speakers for me as well. So I'm trying to get into
I want to
other
say too.
arenas, shall I just say.
I
Go
want to.
on, Dr. Pam.
It was a TEDx talk. It was U.S. Street Women, but then it also landed on the TED.com site as well because it had so many views.
Nice.
So you could say you did a TED talk because it's on their TED platform. So you don't have to say TEDx anymore. It's a TED Talk.
All
They
right.
have promoted you to that, boom, over
Yes,
there. Right, right, right.
yes,
And it was about reparations, which is one of her main
yes.
things that she talks about, and was talking about it before it was sexy, a few years ago, and people were just really, "Oh, we gotta have re" No, she's been talking about that for a long time, and for people who aren't really familiar about reparations or where it really, originates from or why there is a need for it, kinda give us a overall picture, I guess you would say, for those who are sitting on the fence, like, well, why is that a thing? Why is she writing a book about reparations on fire? What is the need for that? And talk about the other nationalities that did get reparations and how African Americans never got it.
Yeah, consolidate the 300-page book in 30 seconds. That's what
In a
we want you
Well,
soundbite.
to do.
well, the quest for reparations is nothing new. It's not novel. Folk have been talking about reparations ever since we were kidnapped and brought over here as enslaved people. Many people don't realize that reparations were, in fact, paid at the end of the Civil War. They just weren't paid to Black folk. Reparations were paid to white people for
New
the
work.
loss of their so-called property. So it was the
Mhm.
1862 DC Compensated Emancipation Act. In order to acknowledge our emancipation, white folk were paid reparations. There have
Mm,
been demands for reparations all throughout the years. There were two Black women, Belinda Royal and Henrietta Wood, who sued for reparations and did, in fact, get them, just a pittance, but it was something. In the late 1800s, it was this Black woman, Callie House, who formed the first mass based reparations movement. She ultimately was unjustly convicted and imprisoned for organizing Black folk for what is rightfully due. There was Queen Mother Audley Moore, who was born in 1898, who was part of the Marcus Garvey movement in the 20s. She talked about reparations throughout the 20th century and influenced just about every major movement, primarily in the Black nationalist, Black Power movement, and the Civil Rights movement, to the issue of reparations until her death in the year 1997. So there were reparations that were paid in this country in 1988. The Civil Liberties Act of 1988 paid reparations to Japanese Americans for their
Mhm.
unjust imprisonment, incarceration during World War II. The Many people don't realize that in the late 1800s, also the descendants of 11 Italian lynching victims were paid reparations by the U.S. government. I'm thinking,
What?
well, how many of us been lynched? We
Right.
never got reparations. There was an attempt after enslavement with the phrase that became known as 40 acres and a mule,
Mhm.
when General Sherman sat down with Black freed people and Black religious leaders right after slavery and said, "What is it that you want?" And they said that we want land, we want education. That's where that 40 acres concept came from. It
Mhm.
was put into the Freedmen's Bureau, but it was taken out, and we never got that. And
Right.
so since 1989, when Congressman John Conyers, who I work very closely with, introduced a bill which became known as HR 40, the Commission to Study Reparation Proposals for African Americans. Since that time, the issue has been front and square in the federal government. But it was not until a couple of years ago, 2020, in the post George Floyd era, that the issue of reparations began to sweep the country like
Yes.
fire. Okay.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
have any and everybody talking about reparations, from the butcher, the baker, to the candlestick maker, from state and local governments, from universities, from religious institutions, from corporations, from private estates. So the issue is now a household word.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I
Well,
love it. I love
I
it.
I have a really direct question. Um,
See, he wants his reparations too. I mean, his little
as
dog are here in the background.
now Pam is she has so many skill sets, producer, like DJ on the weekend. Um I, I think this is fascinating. I do remember the issue kind of accelerating in the post George Floyd era. What do you feel like? Because I feel like the conversation is is of course multifaceted. Of course, that's why you've written on it so much. What would you like to see as it relates to reparations? Because I think sometimes we think it's like, oh, federal government's going to cut a big check, and then all Black people are going to get like a check, and you know whether that happens or not may or may not be the goal. So I'm very curious about what you feel like like, is it even possible? Like, is our is there a check big enough to actually be cut, or is there other smaller, more focused um
Initiatives.
initiatives, yeah, that could be kind of doled out over time that would actually begin to um I don't think anything can
Repair
actually.
repair genocide, basically.
Yeah, but, like, what would you like to see, I guess?
Okay, so thank you for that question. My mantra has always been that the harms from the enslavement era and its vestiges, its living legacies that last down to today, the harms were multifaceted. Thus, the remedies must be multifaceted as well. A reparations settlement can be made in many different ways to help to bring healing to everything that we have been through. Reparations is more than a check. I mean,
Mm.
a check might be even just one small percentage of what a reparations settlement could be. We're in um, the visioning stages right now as to just what reparations can and should entail. I will say I spent the majority of my life just trying to get people not to be scared to say the word reparations. So now I'm beginning to visualize, well, what can it actually look like now that we have states and we have local jurisdictions and we have other entities really looking at the issue. One thing is certain. Reparations is not just equity. Equity is important. Equity, the President Biden just signed a bill calling for equity across the various agencies. But it's more than that. Reparations is more than just public policy. Public
Mhm.
policy that should inure to any and everybody and should be the province anyway. Reparations is that something more, that's something extra. And it's not something that the culpable party says, okay, well, we're going to put your name on this building, we're going to give you this scholarship. No, reparations is what the injured parties determine what they would like to see. For example, I worked with a group of family members from the Georgetown the situation where the Jesuits sold over 200 people down the river to Louisiana to save Georgetown University from bankruptcy.
Hmm.
And with one of the family groups that I work with, we asked them, what is it that you want? And I was surprised by the answer. One of the family groups said, well, we want the upkeep of our ancestors' graves. I mean, who would have imagined? Of course, that's not all that they wanted, but the thing is, you ask the injured parties, what do they want? What do they want to feel whole? What do they want for a healing? And that was very important to some of them. So when we're in this process now, no, it's not just cut the check. Okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
we have matured far, far beyond that. People talk about land. People talk about economic resources. People
Yeah.
talking about healing the various health disparities that are out there. People talk about the educational inequities. People talk about repatriation. Some people want to go back to the mother continent, Africa. They should not go back, penniless. There are movements out there to take history, Black history, out of the classrooms. Well, part of
Mm.
reparations could be truthful textbooks and the real
Mm.
knowledge of how this country came to be. Those are the things that I'll just say it, okay? But the white supremacist structure here once does not want to happen, but it can be all of those things: monuments and museums, the protection of sacred sites, technological advancements, communication, the communication infrastructure, which has there's been a lot of disparities, healing the damages from the criminal punishment system.
Yeah.
So reparations can, in fact, be vast, and that's why these various commissions and task forces being formed now are so very important to study what's happening in those particular jurisdictions or in the federal, the country as a whole, and determine just what type of settlement can we bring about that will help the atonement and healing process.
Mhm. And I
That's a,
think the church should help as well. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
the Black church should help as well. There's different segments of it that are working on different pieces of it.
Yes.
Evanston, Illinois, which is one of the areas that had reparations, explain how they organize their reparations. I guess you would say what they.
Okay, so again, nothing drops from the sky. Everything stands on the shoulders of everything else. In 2001, there was a Evanston judge and an alderman, Judge Lionel Baptiste, who was able to get Evanston, Illinois, to sign a resolution in support of the federal bill, H.R. 40. Jurisdictions across the country, just before and at the turn of the century, were um, signing these resolutions in support of a study commission bill. But what happened a couple of years ago was a young alderwoman, Robin Ruth Simmons, sat at the feet of Judge Lionel and said, I want to take this further. The city of Evanston had just passed a bill legalizing marijuana, cannabis. And y'all know that's a huge
Mark.
industry right now. And
Mm.
so what she said is we can take tax revenue from the legal cannabis industry and fund reparation initiatives in the city. Now, what
Wow.
Mhm.
they did was they didn't go all the way back to slavery, because we say reparations is for slavery and its living legacies. And they looked at what have been the harms in this particular jurisdiction, and they saw the issue of redlining as
Right.
one of the major harms. And they had a whole study done with respect to redlining and how the housing discrimination disproportionately impacted Black people. And they decided that they would take the first set of the proceeds from the tax sales on cannabis and use it to fund reparation initiatives dealing with housing. Okay,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
and they will be looking at other things as well, but that was like the first step. And they used the reparations rubric. They didn't just put the word on it; they directly tied dots and connected the dots back to the harms that were emanating from the enslavement period. So I work very closely with
Right.
Alderman Robin Ruth Simmons. In fact, on my book Reparations on Fire, she wrote praise on the back of the book for me.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with. And
Yeah.
it inspired her actions have inspired jurisdictions across the country to establish commissions like she did, and to seek to look in their own backyard where their harms emanated from, and to use a reparations
Detroit has
framework.
one. Detroit has one. We have a
Detroit has
commission here.
one as well.
Yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
and
Now, I
Mhm.
think
and
I think I
where
heard
are you,
about
Brian? I don't know where you are. Where are you
I'm in
located?
Baltimore.
Oh, Baltimore. Okay, well,
Yes.
yeah, Baltimore's looking at it too. Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
I mean,
Baltimore, Maryland. Yes.
yeah, we should, I think and are you from DC, or did you just
Native Washingtonian, born and
gotcha.
raised.
Yes,
DC is
yes.
about to reintroduce a resolution for a reparations task force as well.
Oh
Oh
Now
yeah,
I
my.
there are
feel
about
like
50 jurisdictions across the country that are doing this. We are making history right now.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
heard about like in Southern California somewhere, I think it was like Bruce's Beach
Yes,
had the lands taken from them and like the early like 1900s, and they
yes.
recently got the land, I think, gifted back, and then
Leased
they
back.
chose to sell it back. Is that right?
They leased it back for, oh God, forgot, maybe three
It
hundred
was like
million dollars a year, something like that.
it was
But
something big. Yeah.
Bruce's Beach is an excellent example. It is not isolated. There was so much land that was taken, stolen from Black people, from Black families, and Bruce's Beach is it's an excellent example because there was collusion with the government
Yeah,
under
because
what's
they did that
called
under
legal
eminent
chapter
domain,
eminent
right?
domain. Yes, eminent
Yeah.
domain. And so they fought that battle, and the family members won, and that has been returned to them in form of reparations. But there are many, many, many examples of Bruce's beaches across the country, and what I call caskets being opened. These caskets, this history that's been buried for so very long, it's beginning to come out into the open now. So
Mhm.
for them to say, we don't want Black history to be taught, we don't want white children to know about these abuses. I mean,
It's
that's a
it's
slap
it's
in the face to Black folk.
yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, what happened in Tulsa, they had their 100-year anniversary of Tulsa, and I remember a lot of people talking about it online, but then there were a lot of people that had never heard what had happened in Tulsa
Right,
at all.
A
right.
lot of a lot of Black people, or a lot of people in general?
A lot of
Both
Black people.
Black
Wow.
people, Black people, nobody, because
Right.
again, well, first of all, with respect to in terms of the Black community, Black families, in
History.
many instances, we find that these instances were so horrific, so terrorizing that people didn't want to talk about it. Even
Mhm.
Yeah.
within families, didn't want to talk about it. They
Yes.
definitely didn't want to talk about it in the press or anything like that, because the people, the people who did these abuses were still walking around, or their
Mhm.
Absolutely.
descendants, their children, their grandchildren were still walking around, and people were absolutely
Afraid.
terrorized.
Mhm.
Tulsa was not isolated. The same thing happened in Wilmington, North Carolina. The same thing happened in Rosewood, Florida,
Oh,
Elaine, Arkansas. Um, the list is really endless, but we're just now beginning to open up these caskets. As Mamie Till Mobley, the mother of
Mhm.
14-year-old Emmett Till, who was lynched down there in Mississippi, Mamie demanded an open casket for the world to see what was happening. Well, that's what's happening now. The caskets are being thrust wide open. And
Mhm.
not only in this country, but people across the world are beginning to see um, what's going on. And there are cries for reparatory justice, not only here in the United States, but in the Caribbean and South America, in Europe,
Mhm.
across the world.
And when the museum, the Smithsonian, the National Black Museum that's in DC, they had the Emmett Till. Uh,
Yes.
I did not go in there. My daughter did, and she was just forever
Yeah,
changed. It was
it's
just like,
hard. Yeah.
I remember seeing it in the jet when I was a kid. So I was like, oh my God, like I could not imagine it. But the history, if you don't understand, and that's why we have the Black History Month issue, if you don't understand it, you just will repeat it. And that's
Yes.
one of the main things of why people have to know about these things. And part of it is reading books, being knowledgeable about it, being able to then be able to articulate changes that have to be made, or just looking at references from the past and say, well, this happened then, this is the difference, because you can make a comparison between what happened to George Floyd in 2020 was really like a lynching. The only difference is the little girl had a camera,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so you can compare that to Emmett Till. There was not a camera there, but that's
Mhm.
Right.
why his mom
The
said,
body was
yeah,
there.
that's why we had it. And it's really a comparison of those two. And so if we don't understand the history, respect the history, tell the history through speaking, that's what we do. We have to tell the stories. It will just repeat itself and it will never be a change. And that's why, me and Brian are just like Black Speakers Network. This is part of our mission. This is one of our values. This is one of our, we have to tell the stories. Other nationalities tell the stories, and they're telling those stories, and they're passing them down. But we have to pass them down and then say, okay, let's make a difference because of it. And that
So I really love when Dr. Brian Oles talks about um, um, things that speakers need to do to be successful. He talks about the power of storytelling. He talks about the importance of repetition. And he talks about the needs for specificity and emotion and passion and
yeah,
inclusion and unity. And I listen to the gems that he has been putting out. I try to incorporate that in what I do. And when we talk about the power of storytelling, one of the things I always like to inculcate in people is that these things we're talking about was not that long ago. I mean,
At all.
I have a little bit of age on me, but I look kind of young. But I was 5 months old when Emmett Till was murdered. I was in kindergarten when Fannie Lou Hamer was beat to within an inch of her life just for trying to register to vote. These things were not ancient history. I'm sorry. They're
Dr.
within
Ben Davis,
our
you ran into him
lifetime.
on campus, remember? And he
Right.
was part of the Wilmington, and he was on the cover. I mean, it's like
Exactly. But
that.
Reverend Ben Chavis, I worked on his case. Well, I mean, I provided as a college student, we did some, support work around the case of the Wilmington 10 and other
Mhm.
political prisoners. And these are all issues that have been always very much near and dear to my heart. And these are the things I talk about when I speak, along with all my lawyer legal stuff. I just kind of package everything together.
As you should, because you have a unique insight and perspective to be able to speak on these things, these issues that many people may not be able to articulate. And so, I think what you're doing is phenomenal. And sometimes I know it must be frustrating because we're fighting a battle, and in what civilization do people in power just willingly, wealth and power, just willingly, you know, give um out of the goodness of their hearts back to people that may have been harmed. It's very easy, I think, to turn a blind eye and just say, oh well, that wasn't me, that wasn't my problem, that's it's time to move on. And no, that's not the case. And I think there's that part of the equation, and then there's the other part that you most eloquently spoke to, which is self-education of our own people.
Mm,
And moving beyond even at our own kitchen tables, I think, is where it
yeah.
starts. And then beyond that, into our communities, into our schools, into the curriculum, and there's opposition all the way across. And so I appreciate you standing in the gap, particularly for so long, using all the tools in in your arsenal, because it's not enough to just be able to speak about it. You have to be able to you've been at the forefront of these grassroots efforts. You've been
Yeah.
speaking with lawmakers. You've been advocating at the local, state, and federal level, working with nonprofit organizations. There's a lot that goes into it, so I appreciate
Mm.
all the work that you've done and continue to do to move the narrative forward.
Can I just make one more thing real quick?
Absolutely.
So it's not just social justice organizations and nonprofit groups and the like. I'm consulting right now with the Kennedy Center. The Kennedy Center is the in Washington D.C. and they have a opera, okay, that is will be premiering in March called Blue.
Oh,
And
Oh,
Blue,
blue.
blue.
BLUE, Blue. It's about policing and it's about police killing of a young black child. And it's about a father a black father was a police officer with his wife and the talk that they had to give to their son who ultimately became a victim. So the Kennedy Center reached out to me because of my social advocacy work, and I'm working with them with respect to community engagement around Blue. If you know anything about the opera, the Kennedy Center, its clientele is primarily rich white folk. I mean, I'm just
Abs-
saying. And for
Absolutely.
them to be able to be exposed to issues such as police brutality, particularly in the wake of Tyree Nichols, what just happened, the last of a string of police killings, it is very, very timely. So I will be doing the talk back after the opera on
Oh,
some of
good.
the performances and doing some other targeted engagement with them. So I say that to say that corporations and industries and arts and culture, social justice organizations, government, state, local, and federal, I deal with with it all. I whatever the vantage point, okay. My message resonates and it's timely and it's important and it's being heard.
Mm, I
Yeah.
like that. And
Pam
that's a
sent
lot.
over the
Mhm.
Pam sent over the website. I'm just looking at the artists now involved with this project. By the way, major companies, to your point, General Dynamics is sponsoring it. But look at the talent, like the all black artists.
Yes.
Mhm. At the Kennedy Center.
Is incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
I this is impact, and this is what it takes. It can't just be like a siloed conversation. So I really appreciate this. I
Mm.
know we're going to transition to the cover, and Pam, again, Pam, I always look forward to those the issue preview. I think we get a chance to see it before it gets like finalized, and I got instantly excited about this cover. Not just because you were on it, but just Black History Month. It just gives us an opportunity to have some of this powerful conversation. But this cover looks absolutely incredible.
I
So
love
great
it.
job again, Pam.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. That is Nkechi in the background with her. Since she's a teenager, it's like she's gonna be with it, be about it, not just talk it, but be about it. And then also to her book is one of the things, Black Power, Black Lawyer.
Yep.
That was the name, up Fighting for Reparations, which is a new book. So combining both of those as well. But she goes by the A's, attorney, activist, and author, right? The three A's, a scholar and entrepreneur. That's her thing. But also we looked at some of the great black speakers of our time, which is on in the articles on the website on Speakers Magazine. She's listed as one of them as well. And then also to her article about why reparations. Your whole article was there too, also Nikichi on Speakers Magazine under articles. So that was you were giving a tribute, to why that was there. So and then on the cover, obviously, is her talk about reparations on her TED talk that she's doing on the cover there. So if you kind of see the video there, it's kind of like embedded in the front. So
Oh,
the
cool.
so the we have the physical magazine, but the online magazine embeds the videos of all the speakers, and that's one of the things that we really try to do. So yeah, that's her 12-minute, 15-minute talk on TED Talk, and the whole thing about like, so when you gonna do your next one? How's that go?
Oh, they asking when you're gonna do your next TED talk.
It's more than a notion.
Yeah, Brian, I know you always put out loads of recommendations for TED Talks and speaking opportunities and all like that. But I'm gonna let someone else take up the reins of that. I did it. It was phenomenal. I am so glad I did it. But I'm just saying it's a lot of work.
It
It
is a
was.
I
lot of
mean,
work, and I think a
let's
lot of
just
people
make it
don't.
started.
Yeah.
But it's great exposure, and I'm glad I did it. But that,
And
yeah,
the other thing is the video that you have now, new people watch it every single day.
yeah,
So it's not like you need to do another one specifically to like I think that's the goal. Like everyone who does a TEDx talk ideally will want to have the type of results that you have, which is to get it in front of as many people as possible. And so, I think that's incredible. So yeah, congratulations on that. And congratulations again, just being on the cover. And we're going to look at the cover story. We can go to the next open up the issue. I know that again, this is perfect. Yep. I know
Mhm.
this is it's just like even the inside is black. I love it. Pam,
Right.
this is really well designed,
It
Uh
is. It is one
it's
of those things.
phenomenal.
If you
Y'all
can
did a
see,
great
there's
job.
like a Kenta cloth on the back of under the table of contents, right over to the right there. So
yep.
that's in there as well. So I was like, okay, so this is it. I mean, I'm about it. So, Nikki, I'm a little bit behind you, but I just remember growing up in the 60s and going to school wearing red, black, and green and singing James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud, right? And I'm probably the lightest one in the group, but I was like, I'm still feeling it. Okay. Those are my roots. You look at my grandparents, it's like, no, we part of this. And so anyway, so the front cover talks about a brand new PR service that we have where people can get quick PR. So many times people are just having like a hard time getting their foot in the door, getting started. The whole program is really to get people that quick media coverage that they need right away, getting started, not press releases, but an actual story written by a writer and on news sites. And so that's something that we just decided that we don't want people to be held back anymore. That they have, because of my network, they can actually get immediate and guaranteed PR. So that was something that I've been working on for a long time. And I finally feel like it's shifted to the part where it's like, okay, it's good now. It's good enough. It's good enough now for my people that I can really just share it out. So we have a network of about 60 different media outlets that people can instantly get PR. And that's one of the things about the quick media coverage that we just guarantee PR. Because a lot of times you can spend money, and Nikichi knows we could work with trying to get an outlet and chase them for about months, right? sometimes
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
but it's like, okay, well, really, I just need to tell this story. So now I just really have a way where people can really get started.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal offering, honestly, because I think it's very difficult to kind of get traction, and unless you're in
Yeah.
that space like you are, Pam, you may not even know kind of how to get started. And so I
Right.
love the fact that you made it into a turnkey process.
Yep. That's it. Turnkey. So let's turn the page here. Uh, the
From the desk of the publisher.
Yeah. So
The-
the NAACP has a thing that says, I celebrate Black history to like I make Black history, right? That's like their theme of this year. I love that. That's one of the things that it's like, okay, we can celebrate it, but we also need to be about making it as well. So this one really just talks about how we living legends in terms of some of the speakers that we have among our midst. Dr. George Fraser, Dr. Willie Jolly, obviously Les Brown, and all the different type of speakers, that the iconic ones, W. Du Bois, Martin Luther King, but on the website it actually has a list of all of the 25 speakers who've been in speaking for over 25 years, and that's Nikki
oh,
G
that's
part
nice.
of them. Yeah, yeah. So it was like, okay, we got 25 of these Black speakers that have been speaking for 25 years. So obviously, Reverend Jesse Jackson, things like that on there. So not entertainers, but basically the speakers as well,
Yes.
who are professional speakers, who this is what they do. So yeah, so that's in there. And then Black Authors Matter. We have a new partnership with them as well. So they're part of the quick media coverage as well. If you're an author, you can be on Black Authors Matter. And they are the ones that created the National Black Book Festival, which is in its 16th year, I believe. I think when it's almost 20 years. And it's just a showcasing Black authors. So the T-shirt I have on, it says Black Authors Matter,
Yes,
Is
right?
that the
mine.
one in is that the one in New York?
No, that's actually the Harlem one or whatever. This is the one in Houston, actually, National
Oh,
Poetry
okay.
Festival in Houston. Hmm. Yep,
That's cool.
fiction, kids books, all kind of things. And Nikichi has kids books as well. Do you have your kids book, Nikichi?
Yeah, I have three children's books.
Yeah.
Starting Legacy, The Adventures
She
of
sure
Kojo and
does.
Palmer, and Three Tales of Wisdom.
There we
Yeah.
go. There they are. Yeah, there they are. Because it is. It's
I got
it's
all.
for best for children's books, fiction books, all of the yeah. So those are the children's books, which are really important because obviously if I had had like the history like that growing up, you definitely just be wiser as you get older in terms of knowing your history and that sort of thing. So it starts young, starts young. Tiana Sanchez, she's another great speaker over there. She is really like a keynote speaker, but one of the things she speaks on is leadership, lead hership, like lead hership, and
Hey,
the upside of failure. She also has some books called Undefeatable: Conquering Self Doubt and The Effed Up World of the Upside of Failure. So yeah, so she's been working with a lot of different clients as well, speaking on leadership with Sony Pictures, BMW, Mercedes. She's a California girl, so anyway, her information is there. And again, we like to highlight that. I believe her. If we kind of hover over that, I think you see her video is embedded in there. Is it? Yeah,
yeah, it's in the middle. Yep.
She
yeah,
has a podcast also,
yeah.
podcast series. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you can kind of see it's like, okay, I'd like to hear her. I read about her, then you hover over that, and then you kind of say, oh, okay, yeah, I can watch her video. So that's her sizzle reel. It's a really good sizzle reel. So this is one of the reasons why we do the speakers magazines to let people know who the speakers are, so that they can read about them, but also listen to them on the reel. Because you can have a reel, but if nobody's seeing it, it ain't gonna get you booked, right? So yeah,
Absolutely. And
yeah.
I
Yeah.
forgot
The
to
fact
mention
that
that.
we, yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
no,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead, Nikichi.
No, I was just saying it helps us also as authors and speakers to see what other people are doing. Like she's
Yes.
named best executive coach. I mean, folks, someone's looking for an executive coach who's already part of your network. You connect people within your network to other people within your network, and I really love that.
That is key. Anybody who's ever been in Speakers Magazine, look at the last issue that you were in and make sure that you connect with the people that are in your issue. Just say y'all family, okay? Just their contact information is there. Connect with them. And I remember, I think Brian, I think it was at SpeakerCon, and someone said, "Yeah, I was in your magazine." I said, "Oh, good." I said, "Who was on the cover?" They couldn't remember. I said, "Who was in the issue?" They couldn't remember. I was like, "So you just only remember your page?" It's like, let's collaborate. Okay. So if you have, and if you get the subscriptions, please save them, go through them. If you have a speaking opportunity that you know about, refer a person. If it's not you, then just, I know someone. And you know someone because you got it in your hand. So yeah, it was funny when they said, "No, I don't remember them in the issue." I was like, "Oh my God. Okay." Like, yeah, these are real people with real numbers and websites and things like that. So yeah, Nikisha, you're right. It is a connecting tool for
Absolutely.
with each other. That's why we're the official magazine to BSN to connect. Yeah,
Cool.
cool, cool. And I think the next two, these two. So we have Dr. Akmal, who was a branding accelerator student, and then also Hotep. So, like you said, one of the things that very rarely do we have men in Speakers Magazine. It's mostly a lot of women. I don't know what that's about, but we always have a lot of women. But this issue,
Well,
we had
we're
two.
85% BSN as women.
See,
It was almost 90 at one point. I was like, can we
yeah.
retarget?
Yeah, so we got some men in here. So Dr. Akmal, he basically is the president of the Energy Institute and the Healing Arts Foundation. And then Hotep is just really big. He actually has a documentary on the Fatherhood Initiative that is really debuting tonight in Atlanta. And so Dr. Akmal is in the Baltimore area as well. So his
Yeah, and
information.
actually, I referred him to you. So referrals are very important
Yes.
as well. So I'm glad he took advantage of that.
Yes, yes, that is, and one of the things too, he had no idea what he was coming into when he got referred. He was like, "We got to get all the way together, Dr. Akmal." So from changing the website to getting this together, and getting on TikTok, I mean, just like, yeah, we're doing all the things because we
Yeah.
want you all to share your message. I mean, he has a gift. He has a gift from birth that he ran from a long time, but he has a healing gift. So one of the things that he does is that he does that very well. And I want to be able to share that with as many people as possible. So that's why he's in here. And then Hotep, He does so much with children's content. Those are his actual two kids there. They look just like him.
Yeah.
But he has written 15 books, and he has a children's CD as well, and
Yeah,
also a documentary about fatherhood. Really just promoting Black fathers, Black
yeah.
fathers, strong Black fathers.
And I
That's
see he was nominated for the Presidential Citation Award and a CNN Hero.
yeah.
That's
Oh
pretty
yeah, I
cool.
did. I saw that in there. Yes.
He's been doing this for a while, for a
Mhm,
long time, and so
mhm.
a lot of these things you see people's like, oh, they're no, they've been
In the
focused on doing
trenches,
the
that's what
work.
I'm saying.
Yeah, to
You know,
focus and doing the work,
just
and then
like Nikichi.
yes,
Yeah, and I want to check out his animated cartoon series. I'm
yes.
interested in
Oh
that.
my god. Oh yeah. You
Yeah,
your
He has
book.
a cartoon.
yeah, he has a cartoon series.
Oh
Yeah,
my god, that would be good to take your books and have them animated. That
yeah,
would be good.
yeah.
That would be good. Yeah, he's a content creator, so he could do that. That is for sure. The next is the center spread. And yes,
Hey,
yes, I love that. So this is the new book over to the left with her fist up on that side, and then the original book, blackpowerbblacklawyer.com.
Memoir.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was the blackpowerbblacklawyer.com is a lot easier for people to spell in Google. So
yeah.
I think when we first talked, I said, I think we probably need to probably promote that one because I think the other one might
you
probably
said easier to spell
yeah, easier to spell
you versus reparations.
no, versus Nkechi Taifa.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I have LakeishaTaifa.com. I have BlackPowerBlackLawyer.com. I have the Taifa group. I mean, I got a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
you got
yeah,
properties. That's fine.
right. And then also too, the main one is that we call to action here is the reparationeducationproject.org.
Yes,
And
that's
that
my
is
nonprofit.
yeah, that's her nonprofit to really help fund a lot of the work that that's still going on for reparations as well.
Yes.
So that one is Reparation Education Project. So anyone, I see all the Facebook, I see Veronica and LinkedIn as well. And Larry, that is make sure that you go to Speakers Magazine, download the issue, go to reparationseducationproject.org, learn more about it, support it. It's going to help all of us and generations after us as well. But Sierra wrote a great article
Yeah.
on Nikichi here. It was really good talking. She gave, you know,
Some really great sound bites in this article.
yeah, it is. I mean, some of the things that she talks about is that, she pours into Black authors, journalists, and filmmakers, Del Waters, Erica Alexander, and she's a go to person on subject matter on reparations. And one of the things when Black News Channel was around, she was always on there all the time. Like
That was with Dale
probably
Waters. He
Probably
always would
weekly.
call me.
Yeah, probably weekly. You should have had your own segment, but and then also too, you've been on PBS too with Dr.
Oh
Chavis.
yeah.
Yeah, that
Yes.
that is that
Mhm.
has been it. And but you've been doing so many different things. She's been featured in other
People
magazines
magazine.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
I can
I can
imagine at this point, somebody Googles like reparations, you probably just come up like, in a lot of the
probably
articles and stuff like
mhm,
that. So that's
that's
that's kind of what you want from
Yeah.
yeah.
from a like brandy perspective too.
Yeah, and then her whole article is actually on Speakers Magazine under articles as well because we can't put everything into the center spread, but then she has a whole article as well on speakersmagazine.com that
Very cool.
that is there. Yeah.
And same thing. I love the design of this center. For particularly that picture in the upper left, like it's
That's
reminiscent of
actually
the.
that's actually her at what age was that?
Oh, I was 20 with the hip rap with
Yeah.
the
That
yeah,
was
I was 20 and the hip rap represents all the different ancestors that poured their knowledge into me. There's Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, and
yeah.
Marcus Garvey and Rosa Parks, and then other names folk don't know like Asada Shakur and Mario Bedelli, Geronimo Pratt. But anyway, it's the
Veronica Pratt.
fusion, the historical, you know, pouring into me. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
My
That should.
maiden name was Pratt. We probably were related.
You might have, yeah. We should talk about that. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I know his
Yeah,
family.
my name was
He's
Pratt.
passed now, but yeah,
This should
he
be a
actually
real.
spent 27 years unjustly incarcerated as a
Mhm.
result of the you know, anyway,
The
unjustly incarcerated. I would just say Johnny Cochran was his original lawyer back in the
Okay.
day. Mhm.
Wow. Wow. You were
But
saying something about reparations that some of the things you got to ask the injured what would people want as reparations besides, 40 acres and a mule, right? That was the thing that was laid out before. But I think one of the things that for reparations that we should get, every Black person in America should get like a, those slave, the history, like beside knowing your DNA, like where you came from, because remember, we can't really go back any further than like our great grandparents.
For
Just
many of us can. Some
for me,
can, but some I can't. But you know.
yeah, many can't, and so that will be something to give every Black person like their
Mhm,
to know like where their lineage is all the way back to the motherland.
mhm, mhm. If,
Where
if
where
I thought,
where that's possible. Some people, this AfricanAncestry.com that helps people
yep.
with that. But yeah,
but
Brian, what
but
you
it's
saying?
not for free. What I'm saying, it's like
Right.
they should gift that to every Black person and African American Ancestry.com.
Yeah,
That,
so I'll just say though, issues are nuanced because there are privacy issues involved when you deal with
um,
databases and
um,
DNA and stuff like that. So it shouldn't be a man. I agree for anybody who wants it and wants to give up
yeah,
samples and all like that. Absolutely, but as we've seen, sometimes things are used for nefarious purposes,
yeah.
as well. So
That's the
um,
lawyer you coming out.
we're
I
in a
didn't
new
even think
world
about that.
now.
Yeah,
I
that's
will.
the attorney coming out. I didn't even think about that part. It's like, well, I was related to Rockefeller. Where's my money?
I would want like free healthcare, I think. But yeah, I know you talked about the public policy piece kind of being, separate. So
Has to
that's
be
probably,
more than that. It can be free healthcare, but you got to specifically tie it back. Like
Mhm.
maybe not paying taxes to pay tax relief, but
yeah, let's do that.
the
Let's start with
it
that.
needs to be specifically connected, and we can do that. We just need to bring the brilliant minds together and actualize it.
Mhm,
The tax
mhm.
the tax pieces, I mean, we just run with that. Like I think that's like a great, particularly, entrepreneurs. We're like,
Yeah. That's
but
why
yeah,
someone like Nkechi is important because she's an attorney, so she has the brain for that, also the passion, so you gotta think of the legal parts of it as well. Because even if you say, well, okay, all African Americans are gonna get da 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 da, then there's a legal thing like who is legally Black? Is it just this? Is it what if your parents were, it's can get
These
messy.
are issues
well, that's
being grappled right here, right now,
Yeah.
particularly in the state of California, and there's a lot of controversy going on around
I
it.
can believe it. I can believe it because then everybody's gonna claim to be Black.
Well, that's where the African ancestry thing come in, like you said. So there you go.
Yes,
Like you can
yes,
you can kind of kill two birds with one stone. But no,
yes.
I do think I know it's super nuanced. I'm just playing, but I love the I've learned I'm taking away a lot from this conversation too. Just in terms of and I need to get your book as well, because like this I have this bookcase in back of me, but now I'm buying another bookcase just for like Black topics
Oh,
because there's so
yeah.
much. Like I just got the
Yeah,
Black Butterfly book, so like
yeah.
there's so much that I just really want to be able to go to my Black bookcase and then have like everything else.
Mhm. Yeah, that
Um,
is good. We do all everybody needs to have that kind of a library of their books. They really do. That's the goal. That
yeah,
that would be really good. So
and then we
then
got Wanda.
yep. Then next we have Wanda mural, and then there's an article. Oh, and there's another video too there. So you kind of see this hover over that.
And I really want to get Wanda's book because I didn't. She has a forward by Dorothy Height. I mean, that was
Yeah.
one of my sheroes.
Yeah, that's one of hers too. It's just a picture of her and Dorothy Height on her website. Yeah, yeah. So that's one of the main things too. And then 5 speaking lessons from 5 great Black orators. And this is Brian's article here. And again, that was
Hey,
one of the things you just wanted to know, like from John Lewis. What was the thing that the takeaway from John Lewis, right? Shirley Chisholm, and if you don't know these people, you Google them, but basically gives you obviously people know Frederick Douglass and Martin Luther King, but then also too that inclusion and unity is a thing for they got Barack Obama elected as the first African American president. So yeah, so those are the things that he talks about the 5 Black orators throughout the history: Martin Luther King, Barack Obama, Frederick Douglass, John Lewis, and Shirley Chisholm. You should send
and
you should send Barack Obama one of these things. Let him know that he's in this
Yes,
lineup here.
yes, send them this one.
Yeah,
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 Michelle.
I,
This issue that has it in there. Yeah.
is this
yes,
a is this an action item for me
yes.
or for Mark? Okay.
this is an action item for you with the
For
little
me, okay.
sticky note on the page. It's like, hey, I mentioned you in this article, President Obama.
And tell
Yeah.
Nkechi's on the cover.
Look, all I need is an address, and I'm good. I'm good. Well, the thing about it is that, when it comes to, and you were talking about storytelling earlier, Nikichi, which I agree with 100%. I think that for some of these, like Frederick Douglass, like you can only read, and then going down to Barack, um, and even John Lewis, you can, and of course, I think everybody else, we have like some video, or audio you could listen. But the main thing is that I there's nuance in there's so much power in the written word, and I think sometimes as speakers we think it has to be, um, like you have to be very verbose, like it needs to be like a 1 hour, like it's not about length, it's about impact and words, and like you look at the specific words and how they're conveying emotion, and really what is the objective of that speech, and how they're able to tie that in. It's mind-blowing. So you could spend a lifetime just studying like
Studying.
powerful
It is.
orators.
It is.
Mhm.
That is something that I would hope people in BSN would do, to study, study the masters, the people and why were they, like, quote unquote, like the great speakers of our time? What was their messaging? What was their emotion? What was their tone? The tone has a lot to do with it as well. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Willie Jolly, um, just he has a great voice, but remember he was like a singer before he
Yes.
Yes.
became a speaker. So he had a great voice. Les Brown was a DJ, had a great
Mhm.
voice. So a lot of the tone of certain things. Cheryl Wood is a great voice. She could sound like she could be a radio announcer. So it's a
Martin
great.
Luther King was a reverend. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, he could rile you up like, yes, yes, yeah. So that is part of it. So just looking at those kind of things are really, really interesting, and can write about it. Write about it. And I always offer people, if they want to write articles for Speakers Magazine, to send in an article. Send in an article, as long as it has to do with the niche of the speakers speaking, then definitely can write articles. Just send them into through speakersmagazine.com, through the website, and we will put them on the site.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
W- Well, we can go to the next page. I love being a contributing author. Particularly, I mean, I wasn't gonna miss Black History Month, of course. So,
No, no, you're not gonna miss Black History Month. Darylyn Walker, she's also a children's book author. Her books are for Black kids to see themselves in children's books. Again, Nikichi, so you know what that's like, right? Her mother was
Mhm.
a librarian. She grew up reading, and then when she got older, she works in HR, but she's had children and was like, you know what? I want to read my kids some of the stories that I see in my head with black
Mhm.
black kids. So Darylyn is in this issue. She does speak. She really speaks a lot about writing, but also to just an advocate for literacy. That's really her
hmm
main passion,
Mhm. Mhm.
for black children reading in the age of the internet, right? So it's like we got to read books. So that's her thing. The other guy on the other side, Charlie Winburn. I love Charlie. He's an educator. He's an author. He's also been in government in Ohio. But Charlie is still doing the thing. His book is 60 Minutes to Focus. I don't have it right
Oh,
now.
60 seconds.
60 seconds. Yeah, yeah, not 60 minutes. 60 seconds to focus. And it is a good, good book. His video, if you hover over that a little bit, Monet.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
has the right in the middle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so you have to watch the video. He grew up in foster homes, and he was in 7 foster homes throughout his
Mhm.
lifetime, and just a lot of, trauma, but he's overcome it. So that whole video explains his story, so to speak. So you've got to go in there and actually see that. I think the one on Dare Lynn's Walker's, I think hers is her on newsy.com, talking about children's books. So about why it's important for creators to create Black children's books. So yeah, Charlie definitely is a person that you want to watch that story, and you will just know his passion. He's a pastor as well as a businessman. He's been in government. I mean, he was like not gonna miss a beat. I mean, he went through a whole lot in his childhood, but it's like he doubled up once he became an adult, and it's just amazing, amazing speaker.
I'm
I,
sending this to one of my friends runs a like foster care, like foster organization for entrepreneurs who are aging out, or youth who are aging out of
No.
foster care.
Yeah.
He seemed like he'd be a great speaker for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he definitely has such a passion for that.
Mhm.
He definitely does. He definitely does. And no bitterness about it at all. I mean, he just, he just overcame it, and, a lot of it is just his story, just his attitude, his optimism is just contagious. Yeah, yeah. Still going strong, still
Yeah,
going
we do
strong.
have a lot of men in this issue. That's cool.
Yes, and the next one is another one. It's another one too. So this guy is from Detroit. He had been on billboards all over the place. Monet, flip to the next page. Anthony Kellum. So he's a real estate entrepreneur, speaker, and author. So Anthony Kellum, Dr. Anthony Kellum, he is like the real estate guy. So he is really on a mission now to teach people about real estate and how to really own a piece of the land, to really save them, to help mission to save the American dream of home ownership for the African American community. That's his goal. That is what he does. He believes property is power. All right. Property is power. So yeah, so it's another man in here that's like, yeah, we're holding it down. And he's from Detroit, but his whole thing is property is power, promotes real ownership.
I
Mm.
believe that. I think
He builds
I would
teams.
love to see the conversation continue with because buying a house, as a keeping um as like a basis for stability and
Well,
passing on generational wealth, but
yeah.
like commercial real estate I feel like is kind of like the holy grail too, because even if it's residential and you're like buying properties, or people that are like buying back blocks, particularly in markets like here in
Mhm.
Baltimore, and I know Detroit, like we all like all these urban cities have these programs where we could be buying significant chunks of real estate, um and just be a part of like the redevelopment that's happening in a lot of these communities too.
Mhm. That's
And I just want to say that just think of where we would be as a people
Mhm.
if we had had the property and
Mhm.
housing, real estate advantages that other groups have, as opposed to having all that stripped away from us from the GI Bill and redlining and not
Mhm.
being able to benefit from home ownership and all that. Just think of where we would be if we had been on equal footing.
Listen,
There was I wanna say in Hawaii, there is a law where they get free home ownership, or they get free something in the Hawaiian community. The Hawaiians actually, with their home ownership, they have some kind of law that they can buy like really cheap, almost free housing.
Mhm.
And I was like, it was because of what was happened to their land, you
yep.
know? And I was like, "Really?" We were on a little bus and they were telling us about it. It was like, "You all get free what?" I was like, "Oh my god." I was like, "I didn't know that." Like every when I say just about every wronged nationality or race of people would have had some
We
form of
care but
reparations.
us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the ones I thought about you, and I was like, "Man," I was like, "How did they get it?" But
Yeah.
anyway, that's
We'll
it.
get there.
Yes, we will. We
It's
will.
our time now.
Yes, yes. And so the last page, this one here just talks about our 5 years that we have coming up and that kind of thing. But this is a preview for coming up for Women's History Month. So this is our March, kind of like a glimpse of the cover. We typically always have an ad of the previous one, like with remember we had January, and so Nikichi was on the back, and then Nikichi was on the front. Then on the back of Nikichi's is Tara Caressa, who will be the cover of March. So we kind of do that back front to kind of give you a preview of that. So yeah,
Tara Caressa,
Tara Caressa Hodges.
got you. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's gonna be on the cover of March.
March. Yep,
Very cool.
yep. Women's History
From
Month.
Black History Month, we got Women's History
History
Month. You got
Month.
it all tied together.
We
Yep, yep.
BSN, we have a we kicked off a speaker series for Black History Month. We're going into the third week of that, and then we have a Women's History Month speaker series where speaker applications are open for that right now. So it's been really really cool, fascinating lessons and topics that we've been like diving into. So, and Speakers Magazine, I think, kind of setting off the tone for each month has been great. So
Yeah.
another phenomenal issue, Pam. Congratulations again. And Sierra, I know she's probably listening or watching the replay. So great job to you as well on another
Thank you,
phenomenal.
Sierra. Great story on Nkechi. I know it was a lot trying to condense it down into 600 words. Miss A would do that. It's like, that's why we embed the video so they can really tell a little bit more. So yeah.
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 Well, Nikichi, do you have any final thoughts before we let you go? This has been a great conversation, and again, congratulations for being on the cover, and thanks for the incredible work you do. But we always like to give you the last word for any closing thoughts.
Oh, I appreciate that. First of all, thank you very much. I'm very thrilled to be on the cover. I'm really thrilled for all the opportunities that Pam Perry, you have opened up for me and for others as well. And Brian, the work that you're doing with the Speakers Network. I just want to conclude by saying that the quest for reparations is equal parts. It's edgy, it's exciting, it's transformational, it's confrontational, it's messy, and it's confusing. But my book, Reparations on Fire, proves that we are now beyond rhetoric and we are well into action mode. And the spirit of reparations is sweeping the country like fire. Whether it heals or whether it consumes depends on how America responds to this long overdue debt. And I hope that it heals.
I love that. I love that. And then your
Well
YouTube
said.
channel, we can watch your weekly show.
Yes, I have a weekly show on WPFW Pacifica Radio 89.3, but it's podcast and it's also on my YouTube. So if you go to Nkechi Taifa's YouTube channel, it's the Nkechi Taifa Experience. All of the episodes, I have I'm on my 25th episode right now,
Wow.
second season, interviewing loads of great people. Just check that out. Or go to my website, nikechitaifa.org or nikechitaifa.com, and you'll find all of my stuff there.
Yeah, I think your website does an incredible job of tying together your many properties, and that's what it should be for. And that's another lesson for speakers. I think sometimes we kind of have these sites and they just kind of sit there, but it should really kind of tie in like all the places where not only you can be found, but like a container for your thought leadership that goes out to these different platforms. So another great example of that speaker lesson. Well, cool. Pam, any last word?
Oh, just thank you, Brian. This has been really exciting. This whole issue was good. When it in the middle of production, it's always messy, but it's like having a baby, and it's like, oh, this was perfect. I love it. I mean, just like you said, it's more men in this, and it has been a long time, and I'm really glad about that, right? Because
Yeah, it's good.
typically it's always like 85% women, and so I like for this issue that to be like that template for what a black history issue should look like. This one is really it because she has so much history.
Yeah.
She has so much history. So thank you so much for allowing us this time to share with everyone over in LinkedIn and Facebook and stuff. This is really good. And get the books. Get the
Yeah,
book.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, another great session. Again, if you are interested in being in Speakers Magazine, I know that you could head on over to speakersmagazine.com/get featured. And
Mm.
that is how you can contribute to, that's how you could be featured. So
And
all
we're
the
working on
information
May.
is there.
We're
Hmm?
working on May. April was full already. So March is like done.
Oh, dang. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, you
Yeah.
gotta
You
be
did the
quick.
email. Right, right, right.
We're already in Q2. That's good. That's awesome. The
Yeah.
middle of Q2, actually.
Right,
That's
right.
Q2 is like about to start.
Mhm,
Okay. So
mhm.
but any case, I do think that, if you are in the BSN community, do not sleep on the Speakers Magazine resource. And Pam, you dropped a lot of nuggets about how to optimize that resource as well, as you, Nikichi. So appreciate that. All right, so we are done. Have a great rest of the day. Have an incredible rest of Black History Month. Go read something and go out and be great. But as we say in BSN, keep speaking up. Your audience awaits, and we will see y'all on stage. Have a great rest of the day.
All righty. Thank you. I got that
Love
screenshot.
you.